Hello everybody, welcome tonight to your new episode of the YMB podcast. This is episode 229, at least as long as this is still a YMB episode. Daniel and I are talking about maybe me doing something else. It sounds like he wants to kick me off the brand, make me kind of go flounder, which I'm used to. My parents kicked me out, told me I need to go support myself and get the fuck out of their lives. So I did it, Mom and Dad, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about not really anything that has anything to do with that, but yeah, we're going to do this podcast with you guys today. I'm Tim Baker. I'm your solo host today. Again, as usual, as Mondays have become my usual time. Like I said, Daniel and I are looking to maybe have me just do a separate episode, kind of like what Zach's doing. But for now, I'm sticking under the branch name of YMB. Tweet me names that I need. Tweet me, again, if you do follow me on Twitter, tweet me shit to talk about, because that's partly why I'm thinking about doing something else, is to be able to talk about whatever and not just have to talk about BTC. And then today, I'm talking about BTC, I'm talking about Bitcoin, I'm talking about cryptocurrencies, but I'm also, the main point of it is talking about something else. So we'll eventually do that. But again, part of the reason we're able to do these multiple episodes a week now is because we have great sponsors, one of them being America's Card Room. And right now, if you go sign up with them, America's Card Room, on your first deposit, you can get a 100% bonus on that, up to $1,000. The code to get that bonus is BTC100, and then whatever you put in, they'll match you for it up to $1,000. Like I said, you make an easy $1,000 right now. Sign up with them. But besides free money, they also have some pretty big, they call them $1 Million Sundays. I think you can figure out what that is. They have a giant tournament. It's $1 million. It's not 1,000 every Sunday. That started back on January 7th. Buy-in's $265, and they have plenty of other smaller satellites off of that. You can also play for a smaller buy-in. And then on Saturdays, they have a guaranteed prize pool of $750,000. It's going through January 6th to March 24th, so you can still get in there, still make some money if you're good at it, or lose some money if you're not. That's called the Saturday Super Series. So if you like poker, you like playing cards, it's a good place to go. The other great thing about America's Card Room is they accept over 60 different cryptocurrencies for both deposit and withdrawals. So you can't be like, oh, but they don't accept my coin, because most likely they do. But yeah, check them out, thank them, tell them that you found out about them through us. Okay, so being as how I've kind of turned these Mondays into me ranting about things, because I don't really do too well besides doing that. If I am doing a monologue, it kind of has to turn into a rant, or I run out of steam by about 5 minutes in. So the episode would probably be ending right now, between about 3 minutes ranting and then mostly ads and just random bullshit at the beginning. But what I want to talk about this week, and this partly has to do, it's nice seeing Bitcoin go up back over $11,000 for the first time since January. It seems like it's literally at this point, if people are like, Bitcoin's dead, it's like it's still gone up so much since just last year. So shut up. But also in the news this past week was the newest shooting in a Florida high school, and then the subsequent everyone rushing to Twitter to defend their side and to kind of just politicize the whole thing, and just to post more pictures of the guy who did it and show pictures of him before, and everyone argues about, well, I mean, this is toxic masculinity in the culture, and men not being able to express themselves, and then other people are like, well, they're not allowed to express themselves, it's not their fault. And the other people are saying well, if only teachers were armed, they could save the children. And then other people, well, they'll just shoot the kids then. And no one, it's useless. It's so useless and just so petty. It seems like no one is affecting any kind of change. I mean, even like most people just kind of tweet out into the nothing, just, oh, well, maybe we should start calling high schools uteruses so then Republicans would care about saving kids inside of them. It's like, okay, is that supposed to win an argument? Is that like, okay, like, none of this is fucking logical. I hope everybody does realize that. I hope everybody, I doubt they do, but it seems like everyone wants an illogical system like a government, and regardless if you think that's what's required or not, you do have to realize that it is a certain break in logic to say that the best way to defend against a large criminal element coming into your country and running things, or an invading force that comes in and tries to oppress you, is paying exorbitant taxes to the biggest gang in the area to defend you. Like, that's, yeah, it might work, and there's plenty of arguments that can be made for why that's what we do as people, but there's a logical break there where you start to say that certain people should have or certain people inside of a certain geographic area have a monopoly on the initiation of force, because a lot of countries, they're kind of losing the even initiation of defense, it seems like, for people whenever they're attacked. That's really the only, as an aside, as far as me on guns, that's really the only thing I see them as being useful for, is defending your house, because the police aren't going to get there in a matter of seconds, which actually matters. They're like they always say, whenever seconds count, the police are minutes away. So if you're actually defending yourself, you're defending yourself in your home. I'm not even necessarily meaning like someone has to be a good shot with it. Like, just having a pistol, if someone walks up to you in the street and you can have a pistol, pull it out, that's going to make you that's less likely that person is going to come and try to stab you. More likely they're just going to run away. So I do see the use of a handgun or a firearm there. Also, if you're inside your home, you have a shotgun, it's pretty self-explanatory why that's useful. My problem is then, this is what I mean by people politicizing it, is people will call for they'll call for a ban to be put on what they call assault rifles, which, again, this comes because people are just tweeting things, and it's very much emotional, especially when it's on the side of, why do you, like, I'm sorry for caring about children dying. Like, people post that, like, I'm sorry I offended you by trying to say that you should have to give up your toys because they kill children. And it's like, yeah, anyone who has half a brain realizes that a gun is dangerous. A gun is more likely to kill you than something like, or a gun is more likely to kill multiple people in an area than a knife. That's just simply how it works. A truck can do the same thing. So fuck off with how, no, like, because guns, if we take them away from people, then people won't kill people. And it's like, yeah, sure, okay, maybe you're gonna have less gun violence overall, but then the people that it happens to, the people who are getting robbed at gunpoint, have no kind of have no defense against that, have nothing to turn to, because generally whenever you start getting into these things where people are like, no, we need to get rid of guns, you can't have a certain magazine, like, they work down. And this will kind of come into a little bit what I'm going to talk about later, but working down on something, whittling down on something, like the idea of taking away a gun, or really any freedom that gets taken away. And this is why I have a problem with a lot of laws. Like, yeah, sure, it sounds like a great idea. Let's not give people with mental illnesses, let's put a ban on them having rifles or handguns. But then who decides where that gets set? Who has a mental illness? Is it because they can take away a handgun away from somebody because they smoke marijuana, but you won't take it away from someone because they're a serious drinker, or they take Xanax daily, or depressants and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you start putting up these barriers or these things, and then normally as soon as they have that established, normally as soon as they get in a country or just a state, because it changes throughout the United States, in like New York, they don't just stop at you can't have a handgun or you can't have a handgun with a certain number of bullets in it. Then the other alternatives that generally get made by the free market, it's not fucking socialists or communists who want the guns to go away, that are then, oh, let's design better tasers or better pepper spray, because then eventually, again, like places like New York, and I don't know the laws over in the UK or stuff like that, but then people get arrested for having pepper spray or tasers or a knife, and it's that shit just gets pushed back as soon as you get people willing to give up a gun. Then, I mean, what are they supposed to do when you're like, give us the taser? And I'm not saying that like, oh, they could defend themselves with a pistol, because that's a stupid idea. It's a stupid idea to think that you with your AR-15 are going to be able to take out a tank. And I get that it was, like, people will make the comment about how Vietnam was fought mostly by farmers and civilians, and which is, yes, there was the Viet Cong, but that was, I don't know the percentage, but it was also, that was only part of the whole army. They had a full militarized side. They had artillery. They had all this shit. It wasn't just guys in a rice paddy firing an AK-47 at randomly passing choppers. They had a set army, and also the U.S. was not doing everything it could over there. They had like a policing action, which is just, we're killing people. We're not actually declaring war, and but if the U.S., if it was a matter of, well, let's just kill everyone, the U.S. had the capacity to just drop bombs. If it comes down to that in the United States, then they also don't have the issue of having to fly soldiers halfway across the world. They can just spin whatever. That's a whole other thing as to if Americans in this day and age even have the temperament to fire back against people. I mean, you see the same people flying a Gadsden flag with the snake. Don't step on snake. Also are the same ones with the fucking thin blue line thing on the back of their car, and it's like they have some other decal. Like, if you don't feel like standing behind the military, feel free to stand in front of them. Fuck you. But these same people who talk about how the government's coming to take away your guns also fucking suck the dicks of every single person who has ever been part of the military or the police force. So that the idea of those people actually fighting against a unified, structured, disciplined military, regardless of their training or physical attributes or even an ability to get up off the couch, is very low. Like, in America, we don't riot for much besides whenever we get whipped up about a black kid getting shot. There will be riots in certain places, and then if there's a fucking sports game, if the team wins, if a college game wins, then everyone's fucking burning shit and knocking shit over. But no one gets out in the streets and actually protests against the NDAA. Like, a few people do, but mostly if there is a demonstration, it's something about how Donald Trump is racist because he's deporting people at the same rate or less than Obama was. And it ends up just being it's this bipartisan issue where protesting against it and being against it doesn't actually mean anything besides that you're on Team Republican. They still get whatever law about just fucking everybody over through. So there's not normally much of an actual consequence to what's being protested. Like if people go out and they demonstrate with their guns and they talk about the Molon Lobby, come and take it. What does that mean? They don't need to take it. And this is after 15 minutes of me ranting about how this is kind of how I tie Bitcoin into it, because they don't give a shit if you have a rifle. That's a cultural thing over in like Europe and Australia, where they've taken, like, they don't have that long history of gun ownership. They don't have the history of hunting like that, of shooting as like a sport. And they also don't have the whole, like, I'm pretty convinced most of the reason why handguns are still so popular is because of like Westerns. We kind of have in America a culture of worshiping the handgun as this cool like thing, like dudes run around with two guns like in the Matrix and just shoot people, and a handgun's not that effective in actually defending yourself or doing anything. But there's something sexy about a Remington 917 or whatever, 1917 or whatever they are, especially in American culture. But if you're paying your taxes, if you're not going out there and complaining whenever Obama signs the NDAA, or when he signs like anything else where it halts or it puts an end to the defense of a American citizen from being just held without cause for however long, or from being basically assassinated like they did to the father and son who were over in a different country. I get that they were working with terrorists, but like, if we're going to follow the law, if we're going to follow any of this stuff, and anybody actually gives a shit, then whenever that happened, everybody should have been out protesting. Everyone should have been like, well, no, this is bad because maybe it's not going to be used against me, but the idea of the law has been gotten rid of now, and now it's going to be so much easier to do that to people.
Get ready for Crypto Overload. We're making it easy to get into the game at America's Card Room with your favorite cryptocurrency. We are thrilled to announce that you can deposit and cash out using more than 60 different cryptocurrencies. We are the first poker site to offer this after already accepting Bitcoin from the beginning. Cryptocurrencies are the future. We can predict that playing real money poker will never be easier at americascardroom.com.
Back to my point. What is George Soros or any other, they don't care. They don't care if it's because I mean you have to also admit to yourself that it's not like Trump or Obama or Bush or Clinton are actually running shit. We all make jokes to each other about how corrupt they are and how deep corporations and the government are in together, and then we go, yeah, but like it does matter who's in there, like they make different choices. And it's like, no, they've been doing literally the same shit for the past 50 years at least. It's constant. There's always a constant. There's always these weird black label projects that they fund by bringing in drug, and then the CIA sells drugs and all. These are constants in the equation for shit, but yet we still act like there's a difference. And that's the problem, because we act like gun rights is actually even an issue as far as freedom goes. Because you're not, like I said before, you're not going to stop the police coming to take your gun. And if you do, you're just going to die. You're not going to stop even the bear cats they have. You don't even have to put guns on the tanks. All they have to have is something to ram into your house. A SWAT team comes out. They kill you in a matter of 5 seconds because you're a normal person, don't spend your life constantly drilling how to murder people, and then you're fucked. And this is where Bitcoin comes in. I wrote out notes like I was going to talk about that for a long time, but now I've just ranted about how gun rights are stupid and won't save anybody for most of it. But Bitcoin, silver, anything that takes you out of their monetary system, that takes you, because that is the only thing you can really do at this point. You can't stand up against them and be like, I'm going to fucking do whatever I want in my house, and if you come in here, I'm going to shoot you, because they'll just come in your house. They'll fucking burn you alive like they did at fucking Waco. It doesn't, like, they don't give a shit. And that's whenever they do start to care, is whenever you go, I'm not going to give you my money. I'm not going to pay taxes. But do that. Because, one, we need you to keep on listening to the show, keep on donating your money, give us all of your money. But is like, that is the lifeblood of everything. Is as long as people can, and it's not about actually that money, because they can just print as much money as they want. That doesn't matter. I mean, your taxes, I don't even think cover the interest we owe as a country. But a mental, I don't like getting super I don't know what the word would be, but like subconscious about it, or talking about stuff in people's subconscious because I don't understand it very well. But I think there is a certain subconscious damage you get to somebody where you can break them over just 30 years or just, oh yeah, you always just give this money to them. Oh yeah, sure. Of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to have my money stored away in the bank because that's the safest place for it, because why else would the economy be doing so well? Because I don't know if that really had too much to do with it, but the only way you can actually truly fight against anything, and this is in any country, because at this point I don't think there are any countries besides a few of the Middle Eastern ones that don't run off of basically the petrodollar and that kind of whole that whole scheme, not scheme, but like that whole group of that whole idea of basing the economy off of that, is to the only way that you can rebel against that or be defiant against that and still survive is to have stuff like Bitcoin or silver, where it's harder to track. Nobody knows necessarily that you have all of this money. They can't come and just, well, where is it? And it's like, well, I've just got it on a piece of paper. Bitcoin's still new enough that they don't. It's going to be a little bit harder for them to deal with. That will probably change in the future when everybody from my generation starts being at the top of the CIA or the FBI, and then we have people who actually understand this shit. But silver, they just don't care about. Doesn't seem like back in FDR confiscated gold, but they didn't do it to silver. So maybe silver to me then is a better bet for that, because it does fly under the radar a little bit. But I think really the whole point of Bitcoin, and we harp on this a lot, but the whole point, it's really the only way to effectively, and it's the only way to actually fight against them. There's a phrase the quote, I think it's from it's attributed to Rockefeller, and I looked it up, and there's a bunch of different quotes, but his is apparently, let me make the song. No, that's what it's made off of. But permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws. That's attributed to Mayer Amschel Rothschild. There's also another quote that it's supposed to be based off of. Let me make the songs of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws, which kind of speaks to, I think, less about just controlling the money and more about, like, I have the people, and I can kind of guide the people's mental views of everything, so I don't really give a shit. And there's a fine one: if a man were permitted to make all of the ballads, he need not care who should make the laws of a nation. Because, yeah, again, you have a hold of people's minds, and if you can control everything that's being put out, control all the thought, control all of the intellectual commerce, then you can basically run the nation. Same thing goes for money. If you can control the way that, especially in America, the way we have our corporate capitalism system, if you can control how 99% of people conduct their business, then you got them by the balls. Like, if you can tax every single, like, 99% of people's interactions, that's perfect. That is the best business scheme I've ever heard of, and I wish I thought of it first. But they don't. I think that most people, and I hope that in the future that maybe, like, all these guys who are super about guns and stockpiling ammo and all this shit will be like, well, no, maybe I should take a different route. To me, Bitcoin and counter economics, and look up agorism, and maybe I should have said that before, but look up agorism, because it's the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the planned out, the dedicated, it's a dedication to fighting against the state through counter economics, which is less involved than it actually sounds, because all counter economics is just any kind of black or gray markets, which normally gray markets is like cash, under the table payments, stuff like that. So I mean, I would even encourage cash, dealing in cash, doing stuff like that, so they can't tax you. But at the same time, not paying your taxes isn't going to stop them from killing people and blowing up other countries and having cops shoot dogs and shoot random unarmed people, because they can just print more money and it doesn't really matter, and most of the rest of the people are going to pay taxes. But if you can take your money out of their system, if you can just quit, because there's no point in playing the game. There is a point, like if your idea of the best life is to get as rich as possible, then yeah, you probably have to play the game. You have to get a good, nice, a good corporate job, or build an app that's a new thing that's come out. But if your ideal of life is to make the most money, that's great. Just realize that even if you do end up winning that, you're still the more money you make, you get taxed more, and if you are the best possible worker, then it's still, you're the winner of a rat race. Because as long as you're in a modern society's monetary system, I guess I want to say, you're just a tax cattle. You're making the money every single day. You're spending half of your year working for the government to support. It doesn't matter who it goes to. I don't like the argument, oh no, taxes shouldn't go to welfare, they shouldn't go to blah, they shouldn't go to this, they shouldn't go to this. Taxes shouldn't go to anything, because if you believe in not taxing, not just stealing from people, then don't steal from people, don't take things from people, engage in only voluntary interactions and shun people who don't. So yeah, basically my point this week is, if you actually do care, if your point of your life is to live more free, to live the freest life you can, then get your money out of the dollar. Whether that's silver, gold, guns, anything, even if it's just holding bags of rice or holding anything. Not legitimately that. Please, if you do though start stockpiling rice, please tweet me, because I would like to know that my podcasts can ruin people's lives. But no, don't stockpile rice. But even if you can't, and I saw a tweet recently by Amir Taki, and somebody said something about only put in to crypto what you're worth, what you're willing to lose. And yeah, I do get that. I get that. Again, if your point of your life is to make as much money as possible and to keep as much money as possible, but if you're really into this shit and you're really about bettering your life as far as living your own life, being self-sufficient, and looking after yourself and being the master of your own mistakes, take your money out of the dollar, get it into Bitcoin, get it out of whatever game that your country is playing with it. That's about it. You guys can check me out at Baker's Dozen 93 on Twitter. Check us out. We do a YMB podcast live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Zach Vole, my other co-host, does a podcast called The Coin Pod. If you found me, you can probably find him pretty easily. Check him out. He does great interviews with people. A lot of cool stuff on there, and it's different voices, not just one person ranting the entire time. Tell me if you guys liked the episode. Tweet Daniel, tweet me. Comment on YouTube, subscribe, give us money, give us your wives. Basically, we're looking to form a cult based around microphones and cables. So if you're into that, hit us up. Besides that, have a great week, guys. Check us out on Thursday, live at 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye. Love you.